people had shown that there's actually changes in the brain, in the part of the brain that's involved in detecting objects moving. And then that becomes bigger and stronger before and after learning to juggle. Also, people who learn 2 languages, the part of the brain that's involved in language processing is bigger in people who know 2 languages or 3 languages than people who only know 1. So we thought, okay, well, could we see differences and changes in the brains of people who regularly meditate? And so we took a group of highly experienced meditators and a group of controls, and we just looked at the actual shape of their brain. And we found 4 regions, in particular one region called the insula. And the insula is very important. It's also involved in regulating the body, but it's also involved in sensing the body. So when you feel hungry, that's your insula. When you're feeling tired and sleepy, that's the insula, sort of integrating all the senses from the periphery and saying, this is how I feel right now. Also, it's very important in communicating information from the cortex, which is sort of thinking, and the autonomic nervous system, which is more the feeling and emotions and bodily changes. And so it coordinates those 2 types of brain functions. And this was the region that we found to be predominantly affected in the meditators. It was much larger in the meditators than in the controls. And also what was important was that the change in thickness was directly proportional to the total amount of time that they had spent meditating. So it really suggested that it was a gradual change over many years and not just something different, that people who have thick insula for some reason are drawn to meditation. We don't think that's the case, that it really is suggestive that it's a long-term cumulative process. Another region we found thicker in meditators was a region here in the front of the brain, and this is a region that's known to talk to the amygdala. And the amygdala is all about anxiety and fear, and this part of the brain, this front part of the brain, turns down the amygdala and it sort of shuts it down. And so again, the fact that this region is thicker suggests that it's having this effect on the amygdala, that it's turning it down. And this again would be consistent with the stress reduction and the better ability to handle difficult situations as they arise during the day. The other 2 regions we found were regions of sensory cortex. So one was auditory cortex, so the part that is listening, and also a part of visual cortex. And again, this is consistent again with being in your body. So when you first start to learn to meditate, you focus just on the breath in this particular form of meditation, and you're just noticing the sensation of breath moving in and out through your nose or your abdomen rising and falling. But then as you become more advanced, you become more aware of what's going on around you, so the sights and sounds around you, but you don't get involved in it. So you might hear, say, a bird singing, and you're not saying, oh, bird singing. It's just noticing the actual quality of the sound of the bird singing and the song of the bird. Or noticing just the color and the texture and the pattern of this table rather than saying, oh, it's a table. And so the regions that we found were consistent with this enhanced awareness of the sensory aspects of stimuli rather than naming the object. So it's more the qualities of them rather than the involving, oh, this is a table and I'm going to eat at this table. It's the qualities about it. That's the nice thing about the finding, is that it was not everywhere in the brain. Because some people might say, well, these people are relaxing and they have a healthy diet, and so and we know that many factors affect the thickness of the brain. And so people who exercise have generally thicker cortex than people who don't. Or if you have a healthy lifestyle, you're going to have all over thicker cortex than if you don't. But these regions that we found were very specific. It was just these 4 regions that were thicker in the meditators. And so it really is, and again, in 2 of them, the insula and the visual cortex, were tightly correlated with total amount of experience. So it really suggests that it's a slow, gradual change that's really related to what they're doing, and not just because of a healthy diet or other lifestyle factors that might go along with being a person who practices meditation. Right. Well, certainly our results are consistent with the idea that it's dose dependent. Again, the changes were slow and gradual. And again, that's very consistent with what people say, that the more they do it, the better they feel. Some of the people who were most experienced had been on multiple week-long or month-long retreats. One woman who was the most experienced had been on multiple 3-month retreats. And again, people say that these long retreats really have a pronounced effect on them, and that certainly some of it wears off. You come back from a retreat and okay, you're going to go back to your life, but there's something about it that stays, and that seems to be consistent with it.